Alright, good afternoon. My name is Andrew. So, have any of you ever been to a volcano? Yeah, which volcano? Cool. Well, in 2006, my father took me on a trip to Tanzania to Mount Kilimanjaro, and we spent about a week climbing to the top. Then we slept in the crater for a night, a day to get there. In the following talk, I want to go over what you would expect to come across, when traveling to Tanzania or when climbing Kilimanjaro. And I'm going to do like a little unofficial plug for the guide company that took me up, because I honestly think they are, the best out there and by far the most qualified. So to give you a general idea of Mount Kilimanjaro, it's a shield volcano, so it's like not very steep, very gradual incline. It's actually the most symmetrical crater in the world. It is the largest volcano in the world. It's also the largest freestanding mountain. It stands at 19,345 feet, and the base of the mountain is at about 9,000 feet. So the total vertical rise is about 10,000 feet. One of the coolest things about the mountain is that it lies at about 3 degrees south of the equator, so you're in, equatorial, tropical East Africa. But by the time you get to the top, it feels like, you're in Siberia. And that's, obviously due to the altitude. But as you ascend, you go through, 4 or 5 different ecosystems, kind of like climate zones. You start up in the jungle. There's collarless monkeys, collar monkeys, and all sorts of tropical toads and bugs and lizards, humongous ferns, plants you don't see around here at all. And above the jungle, transitioning into the moorlands, which is kind of like scrub brush, there's a very thin belt of some sort of species of pine trees. It's completely covered in Spanish moss that dangles all the way to the ground. You can't see more than 15 feet in front of you. It's definitely a really, really unique little spot. And then above that, it turns into scrub brush. It gets a lot colder, around 12,000 feet. Basically big juniper looking bushes and rocks. And then above 14, it's just lichen. I think there's hundreds of species of lichen living on the rocks, but other than that, it's a pretty barren place. And then the top is not only a crater, a volcanic crater with a big ash pit cauldron on one side, but there are glaciers up there that at one point, maybe 100 years ago, completely covered the whole top. And I think drawings from 1800s when explorers first got there showed the top third of the mountain was completely coated. But they're melting really fast, and we're probably gone, I think, by 2020 or something like that, after 15, 20 years. But in total, it takes 7 days to get to the summit, and then from the summit you climb down into the crater, spend a night in the crater, and then the next day you wake up, summit again, and then go all the way down to the very bottom, which is the most strenuous part by far, doing the downhill in one day. There are a couple of health concerns. Nothing on the mountain is, worthy of ropes and pickaxes or anything like that. A lot of people use poles. So you're not really concerned about the technical aspects of climbing, but altitude is a very serious danger, especially if you're a little bit under the weather, or some people are just prone to it. There was 7 ultra-marathon running women in my group, which is how we knew the guy. They'd met him running an ultramarathon in Death Valley, but almost all of them ended up sick and on oxygen. And me and my father might have had to do with the fact that we were used to less oxygen, at least I was, because I'm a smoker. But that's just to say that, you know, altitude is indiscriminate and it'll take out pretty much anybody. You can, you know, come down with HAPE and HACE are the main two concerns. One of them is high altitude pulmonary edema, the other one is high altitude cerebral edema. Both of them have to do with like pressure and fluids building up in your lungs for the pulmonary edema, and cerebral edema, basically your brain shrinks and the distance between your brain and your skull gets bigger. So your brain like sloshes around, and as a result you can grip like connective tissue that kind of holds it in place. It's not a pretty thing. But despite the physical and mental demands associated with climbing on Kilimanjaro, obviously it's absolutely beautiful everywhere you look. From the jungles to the forests to the scrublands to the views that you get from the top. There's nothing, you know, that can really explain, you know, how it feels other than just being there. The people you encounter are, you know, a dime a dozen, from, you know, the climbers you meet on the trails, which hail from nations all over the world, to porters who are unique. You know, the country, the nation here requires by law so many porters per tourist on a mountain, because tourism is a humongous industry over there. So for a group of 12 of us, there were, I think, 50-something porters that, you know, broke down the camp and pretty much did everything. Everything. And they're absolutely amazing athletes. They run up to the next camp, and you know, it takes us all day, and they break down camp after we finish breakfast, and you know, literally run up the mountain, get up to where we're going 6 hours later, 2 hours, set it all up, and then just hang out all day. And a lot of them are wearing sandals made out of old tires cut into the shape of a tread, and you know, just turned into like a toe-thong sandal. Some of them didn't have hats. I mean, we left all the equipment that we brought, but it seems like they didn't even need it. You know, they could do it barefoot in t-shirts. They do it year-round, and they're amazing athletes. Our guide, part of his program, which is why I think that he's one of the better people to go through if you're gonna, you know, travel to that part of the country, is his name is Sam Matui, and he holds the world record for the fastest ascent and descent of the mountain, which he did in about 8.5 hours, self-assisted, didn't bring any water, no food. It's like a 36-mile trail that goes up 10,000 vertical feet, and he ran it in like 8 hours, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's almost, you know, 2 marathons up, you know, 2 miles. So if you're going to be, you know, in the wilderness of East Africa on a mountain that would take 2 to 3 days to be carried down, broken ankle, there really isn't anybody better to do it than this guy. Plus he's got a really good personality, and when you fly in, he picks you up at the airport, brings you to his homestead in his village, which is in like the jungle foothills of the mountain, and you stay there for like a day or two, you know, get rested from the like 14, 16-hour flight. And then he drives you to the gate before day 1. You stay at a farm that grows barley for pretty much the only beer company in the country, and it's owned by, you know, descendants of German immigrants that moved there to farm. So you go from his village, which is the traditional Chaga tribe village, to, you know, a German-owned barley farm, and you climb the mountain, and then you come back, and he has a huge party of his whole village and all the porters who are from his village, who live, like, you know, right around his area. So, you know, as far as spending your time and money, I think that this is a really good way